Man, I couldn't ask for a more beautiful setting to be in right now to do some gear testing, but I want to know, is the Thermarest XTherm right here in front of me worth all the hype? Is it that great? Is it the cream of the crop, the king of winter sleeping pads? That's what I want to figure out today. We're going to compare this to the Nemo Tensor Alpine, which is a pad that I've been using on the regular for the past 2 years. I just picked this up. So we're gonna do a little science experiment today. I'm gonna strip down to my pants and my t-shirt, and we're gonna lay down on top of these pads. I've got a 30-degree quilt. We're in full winter setting here, and I want to see, is the XTherm really as warm as everybody says it is? Is that 6.9 R value as great as everybody claims it to be? And I want to compare it to this pad, the Nemo Tensor Alpine, to see if the R value of this is close enough to the XTherm, which is better, and just give you my first impressions of whether or not the over $200 price tag for the XTherm is worth it. That's what we're gonna try to figure out today. Now, as we get going today, I want to talk about today's sponsor, BackCountry.com. I've been a customer of Backcountry for many years. I have bought many gear items from them, and we're going to talk about sleeping pads today. And if you're looking for a sleeping pad and you're not really sure what to get, BackCountry.com has an amazing selection of various sleeping pads that you can choose from. But if you're like, I'm not really sure which pad to get or what makes the most sense for where I'm going and the weather and conditions that I'm going to be experiencing, jump on with one of their gear heads, because those gear heads are going to be able to answer your question. These are people that have experience in the outdoors. They know the product, they have used it themselves, and they are able to answer your question and give you the best suggestion for what product is going to make the most sense that also fits within your budget. So thank you to Backcountry for sponsoring this video today. Let's jump back to today's science experiment and get this thing going. Now, I want to quickly cover some of these specs and differences between these two pads to create a better baseline of what we're trying to accomplish with today's testing. Let's talk about the XTherm. 15 ounces for the regular size, which is what I have here. We've got a horizontal baffle system compared to this quilted type of pattern that you get from the Nemo. This is not my favorite type of baffle to lay on. It's not as comfortable as a side sleeper, and you still get that chip bag type of sound from the XTherm, which is fine, it's whatever. Not really the case with the Nemo, but 15 ounces for a 6.9 R value. That is crazy high weight to R value ratio that you don't see in any other pad out there on the market. And they use a really cool triangular shaped baffle in this construction to allow that type of R value scenario to accomplish itself. But I mean, you still get great thermal efficiency out of the Nemo, just not as high of an R value. So this is the regular size. I've got the long wide of the Nemo here in front of me. This pad is 1 pound, 11 ounces in weight, so significantly heavier in weight. This is a 3-inch height pad where you're 2.5 inches on the XTherm. So a little bit more cushion on this, which is going to add to the weight as well. And the valve style that you've got here is a two-way valve that allows you to have a dump portion so that you can get rid of the air quickly to roll it up and such. But then you've got the one-way valve. And then on the XTherm, they recently released, Thermarest, this winged valve system that is a huge upgrade from what they had for their valves for many, many years. So I'm glad to see that the wing valve is a nice upgrade, and I've enjoyed it so far for the couple times that I've used it. So we'll see over time how that works. But 20 denier fabrics on this particular pad, and you've got a mixture of fabric on the XTherm. You've got a 30 denier on the top and a 70 denier on the bottom, which is going to make this very, very burly and just able to handle rough conditions, basically. And then quickly to talk about the Nemo with how the insulation works in here, they're using a space frame baffle construction, which basically allows the 3 layers of film insulation in here to be suspended, which is going to create better insulation value properties for this particular pad, but an R value of 4.6, which is really interesting because when this pad came out, they claimed a negative 20 degree Fahrenheit temperature rating. Then the standard of pad testing came out. They removed that negative 20 degree temperature rating and replaced it with a 4.6 R value rating for this particular pad. All right, here we go. So what I'm gonna be doing is I took my jacket off. I'm taking my boots off right now, and I've had my jacket off for about 5 minutes. So it's about 30 degrees out here. It's nice and cold. And we're gonna start with the XTherm. So I've got a 30 degree quilt here. And all that I want to do is I'm gonna get in the quilt, I'm gonna lay down here and pull and tuck myself in, and we're just gonna sit and wait and see what kind of temperature things I experience as we're laying here. Oh. Now, one of the things that I know that I don't enjoy about these NeoAir X pads or sleeping pads is that they just aren't wide enough. But right on top of the snow, I'm covering myself loosely, so I still have a little bit of draft coming in over top of me. And yeah, this so far, pretty nice, honestly. 30 degree bandit top quilt is what I'm laying under. And I gotta say, this is pretty cool. Really, really interesting because I've got a little bit of draft that I can feel coming in over top of my shoulders, but my back, I can already feel warmth on my back, which the pad has been sitting out in the cold for as long as I've been filming this video and prepping, so close to an hour at this point, and I'm not cold. I feel a little bit of a draft. It'd be nice to close and tuck myself in a little bit, but I gotta say, as my first time laying on this pad in freezing temperatures, in cold weather, and what it's designed for, I'm pretty impressed. So we're gonna keep laying here. I might tuck things in a little bit and just see what happens, but this is nice. I'm really enjoying this, actually. So I've been laying here now for close to 5 minutes, and this is easily the warmest pad that I have laid on in my entire backpacking career, if you will. This is quite the experience because I've never slept on a pad that's had a R value over 5 or 5.5, and to feel what I'm feeling right now, heat against my back and just my body temperature like staying nice and warm, this is impressive. And just in 5 minutes time of testing with a 30 degree quilt, like pretty much at the temperature rating that this particular bag is at its limit, this is impressive. Like, I am fully stretched out. I'm not feeling any need to curl up into a ball to stay warm. The true test of this, however, please keep in mind that as I'm doing this, that I'm not out on a overnight trip doing this test. I just want to give you my first initial impressions of laying on this particular pad, having never laid on it before out in winter conditions. And I'm impressed. In 5 minutes time, like, there is a lot of heat within my whole body and just feeling a lot of warmth against the pad itself. And that's impressive. So I'm really interested to get cold again, lay on top of the Nemo and see how that lower R value, still considered a winter pad, changes how this particular experience is between these two particular pads. Yeah, as I sit up and I'm feeling the pad right now, I can feel heat against my hand. That's awesome. This thing is really cool. Yeah, it just might be worth all the hype in that $215 price tag or whatever it is. So it's been another 5 minutes or so and just walking around. It's cold. I can feel it. Starting to shiver a little bit because it's, again, about 30 degrees out here. And we're gonna see how this Tensor Alpine is. Now, consider that we have the variable of a wider pad than I was laying on with the 20-inch wide regular XTherm. Now, when I got the Alpine version of this pad, I did a very similar type of video to test how nice this particular pad was, because again, this was before the R value standard for sleeping pads was released, and they claimed that negative 20-degree temperature rating. I can say right now in this initial minute or two of laying here that I'm not feeling nearly the amount of warmth that I was instantly feeling with the XTherm. Now it sounds like I'm fanboying the XTherm and trying to talk it up so much and all of that, but when you're here in person and you're actually doing this, you got to just like trust me on the fact that this really is a different feeling on this pad than it was on the XTherm. I don't feel as much of that heat radiating back as quickly. Now it wasn't like instant, like I had just said, but this is pretty stark contrast between what I was feeling with the XTherm versus what I'm feeling on this Alpine. Again, wider pad, there's a little bit more surface area outside of the quilt, so that could be adding some changes to it. So in the comments, you can tell me that my science experiment is a joke and that I'm doing this all wrong, but whatever. I'm having a good time. So we're gonna lay here and just see how this goes. So I think something that's important for me to note in this whole testing is I'm a cold sleeper and always have been. And so I choose my sleep systems a little bit differently than I think some other people do. I tend to go for a little bit warmer systems, even in the summertime. And man, I'm shocked that I have not taken the leap sooner to get the XTherm, because this is a big difference between laying on top of the Alpine versus laying on top of the XTherm. This is nearly not as warm as the XTherm was in that short 5-10 minutes of laying on the pad. I do feel warmth, but I don't feel as much warmth as I was feeling in a shorter period of time on the XTherm. So on this Alpine, I have had this down into single digits, below freezing many times. And I've been very happy with it. But now that I have experienced the XTherm, I don't know that outside of late 3-season use, I will use this Alpine unless I'm looking for something super comfortable or that kind of thing. But this is a very different experience. It's still very comfortable. And in fact, I still stand behind the fact that this Nemo Tensor is probably the most comfortable sleeping pad on the market. And I feel more stable on this pad. I feel just a greater sense of comfort than you have with the XTherm specifically. And so it wins in that way. So sitting up here and putting my hand on the pad, just like I did before, it's not nearly as warm, and honestly that's to be expected. And again, this is not crazy science. We're not getting to the point that I want to know down to specific data points and all that kind of thing. I'm just going strictly based off of how I feel in a short period of time laying on this. Is it reflecting body heat back? Am I feeling that warmth? And am I trapping in all of that inside of my quilt and that kind of thing? And this is not doing it quite as well as the XTherm was. And so, yeah, we're gonna say that R value of 6.9 really does make a big difference in a winter setting like this in the cold, more so than just this below 5 R value that you have with the Nemo Alpine. All right, so closing thoughts here on these two particular pads, and to answer the question, is the XTherm worth the hype? And initial impressions, first time laying on it, understanding that this is not a review, this is not me saying that I have all this experience with this pad, this is what you should buy. This is just off of first initial experiences with the pad. Yes. Now I want to put the disclaimer out there that a full review will come out on this pad after I have significant time with it and I'm able to really say that, yeah, it's absolutely worth the hype for these particular reasons or not for these particular reasons. And just my experience with these NeoAir line of pads in general, they are not as comfortable for me personally, and I would rather go with the Tensor with this quilted pattern that you get on the Tensor Nemo pads. And so that is something that makes it not as worth the hype for me. But when we're talking about a winter pad that's going to keep you warm in all types of different scenarios that you might find yourself in for winter backpacking, hiking, camping. This is absolutely something I'm very excited about and look forward to testing more to be able to say that that is the ultimate winter pad, or no, it is not the ultimate winter pad. So I appreciate you guys taking time to watch this short experiment today and see kind of the process that I'm going through to test product and to share it with you guys so you can see what I've got going on here. But I'm excited to finally have this pad, to use it and really see, is it as great as everybody says it is? And so far, first impressions, I'm pretty excited about it. So with that, I want to say thank you to Backcountry again for sponsoring today's video. I've got links for everything down in the video description so you can go and shop on Backcountry for different types of sleeping pads. Got various sleeping pads listed down there. Thank you guys for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. I hope you have an awesome day. We'll catch you on the next video. See you later.